This is SoulCharge, the podcast for women leaders to take the highest level of ownership of their power to create results now. I'm your host, Stacy B. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of SoulCharge. I'm your host, Stacy B. And today's episode is truly one for the books. I am joined by a very special guest, a SoulCharge team member and someone that is very dear to my heart, Miss Jennifer Lunt.
Hello,
Welcome to the episode.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
I'm so
yes.
excited.
I'm so excited to have you here. So Jenny and I have known each other for about 6 years. We met at a Tom Green show. Yes, my mom is on your lips. Yep, bringing it back, 90s. And we became fast friends and discovered that our wedding anniversary, we were getting married on the same day, and just we've become friends over the years, obviously. And earlier this year, Jenny reached out to me and said, I'm leaving teaching. She's been a teacher for just over a decade.
Mhm.
And she reached out and said, I'm leaving teaching. Are you hiring? And I said, matter of fact, we are growing at SoulCharge and would love to talk to you about the opportunity. So Jenny, share with everyone that's listening. Let me say that. Jenny, share with everyone that's listening what your journey was about leaving teaching and coming to SoulCharge.
Yes. So, like Stacy said, I was teaching it would have been my 10th year of teaching. And I had actually reached out to Stacy and said, Stacy, I saw you're opening SoulCharge. Like, are you hiring? And we kind of talked about it a little bit. And then she was like, it's just not the right time.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, that's not a problem. Like, I'm going to sign my teaching contract, and because I wanted to honor that. And then probably about 2 or 3 weeks later, I feel like I was like, actually, Stacy, I quit my job. And I am not the type of person to just quit a job without a backup plan, but it was time to make the decision for me to be healthy, for me to be just in a better place. And that wasn't where I was. And so I reached out to Stacy again and I said, Stacy, actually, I just quit my job. And I just want to keep you in mind if you are hiring or something works out in the future. And Stacy actually said, now is the time. And that is how I started with SoulCharge. Although, like Stacy said, I've known her for quite a while and had delved into, her podcasts and things like that. And I was just ready to be SoulCharged, and I was ready to work in a place that was going to honor everything that I brought and to grow me. So
that's so great. Part of the reason that we wanted to incorporate the SoulCharge team into the SoulCharge podcast is, one, because we live and breathe the SoulCharge curriculum and values. Our core values as a company are actually the pillars that are a part of our SoulCharge curriculum. But the reason that we wanted to involve the team in this podcast is because Jenny brings an incredible perspective and her own transformational experience by applying what the curriculum is for SoulCharge, but also to bring a different conversation around transformation and ownership and the power of decision and the power of deciding to take ownership in a different way. And so when we decided to rebrand the SoulCharge podcast and, go forward, that was just an important part to me, is to not only have the solo episodes of Stacy and of course, the guests that we want to bring for you guys, but that the listeners also get different perspectives from the different life experiences that each team member has, and also the experiences that they've had by living and breathing the SoulCharge principles. So just a little background method to my magic as to why I wanted to have Jenny join me on the pod today,
which I am so excited for.
Yeah. Jenny is very excited, and you'll hear that multiple times. So Jenny, what I would love to talk about, and I'll preface this first, is the mission of SoulCharge is to guide women leaders to awaken to their power to take a higher level of ownership to create anything that they want. And it's really this idea of owning your ownership. And it's this idea around if you take a higher level of ownership, what that means is there is a level of conviction and decisiveness that's going to be required, because what you're saying is, I'm claiming this level of ownership and basically leaning into whatever that means. A lot of times we're like, I want to take ownership. I want to change this part of my life, but I don't know how. And decisiveness and ownership go hand in hand. And so we're going to dive into that today because, wow, does Jenny have some incredible stories about how taking ownership and being decisive in her life, literally in less than 4 months, has transformed. I get goosebumps every time I talk about this, has transformed her life and the people around her. So, Jenny, I'd love to have you share, what was it first for you? Was it a decision about ownership? Was it a decision to take ownership? Talk to us about, like, what was the first step where you started to see change after joining SoulCharge?
So after joining SoulCharge, it was really just, this was my ownership over me being committed to being healthy, having a better home relationship, all of those things. And when I told Stacy, like, I quit my job, like that was my decision. But then my ownership was really, I need to own to myself, you deserve being healthy. You deserve being happy. You deserve a great work environment. And so that's really, after I made that decision, that all fell into place. Like, people see me now compared to 3 months ago, and they're like, you're a different woman. Like, you walk with certitude. You walk with this confidence that I have not seen you. You look healthy. You look happy. And I'm like, I am. And that was all stemming from the decision to quit, but then the ownership that this is what I deserved.
Yes. Yeah. Because by you deciding to quit teaching, not necessarily having a parachute, right? It's like you jumped off the cliff without a parachute. And yeah. But what I'm really taking away from what you're saying, and I want our listeners to get by Jenny's beautiful example of doing this in her own life, is that she decided to change something. And by her decision, there was a level of ownership that she took ownership to trust, that no matter what, she was going to figure it out, whether that meant she worked with me, or if it didn't work out to work with me, like, she knew that she was going to figure it out. And I think that that's such a powerful takeaway of, sometimes you don't know all the steps. And there's a Martin Luther King quote that says, like, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. And that's what I heard you say in that example.
That's exactly what it was.
Yes.
I had to take that first step for me.
Yes.
You know, not knowing where this was going.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when you started working with SoulCharge, part of what we do with the team is we take the team through the exact process we take clients, because we are committed to being that living, walking, breathing example of the work.
Yeah.
What was the first thing that started to shift for you, or what was your experience as you went through that?
So I think the really big thing that shifted for me was my certitude, my confidence in myself, because starting a new job is not easy, especially after being a teacher for almost 10 years. You know, that was all I had known for 10 years. And really, that's all I had known, because that was my career. And so hopping into this new job where I'm like, I don't know what I am doing. But going through with Stacy all of the SoulCharge things, like, my confidence is, I don't want to even say was, is at a high, because I am in a great space, great environment. I feel healthy, and I just walk through this world like I'm rocking it. And I think that was the biggest thing, was my certitude, which, you know, connection, ownership, mastery, they all go into it. But what I really noticed first was that confidence in myself, which for my whole life had been not great. I was not a very confident person. And now I'm like, yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
Or I'll figure it out.
Right. And I think that that's just like another thing that ties into this idea around ownership and decisiveness, and that power to make a decision is you came into this role knowing that belief in yourself was like the one thing you wanted to unlock. It was the one thing that you were like, I can handle anything you throw at me, but I'm just not that confident in myself. And that was her mantra almost at that time. And the invitation that I made to her was, are you willing to make a decision to experience something different? And I remember actually I said something like that on the first call with her. I was like, are you willing to end that story and be open to something different? And her decision to be open allowed her to own a different way of being. And I think that's something that it's like, it wasn't overnight. I don't want to say never, but it wasn't overnight, but it was a commitment and a decision. And the thing about, and I think this is really what I want to highlight the most on this podcast is like, Jenny, you have this ability to decide something and own something at such a high level that of course it's going to work out because you're bringing your whole self to the game, baby. And it's your game and you're going to rock it and it's going to go one way or another. But at the end of the day, you're going to bounce with it. But that clarity of who you're going to be in the process, I think was the biggest thing that you shifted in that decision.
It was less of, oh, sure, I can help versus I'm all in. Like, let's do it to it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing that people have even said to me is you walk through this world like you're just owning it all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, I am actually.
So good. So a lot of times the inner work that we do, we don't always associate that with immediate external results. You know, it's like a lot of times, especially as, you know, powerful women leaders, as, you know, you are podcast listeners, is it's easy to, you know, go through the world going like, I'm externally achieving these things. I'm externally doing these things. And sometimes what we don't understand is things like health, things like external results, not always always related to the business, but even our health can change when we change our internal state and we start owning our decisions and owning the next level that awaits us. And so, Jenny, I'd love for you to share your experience as it relates to health. As you've made these powerful decisions, you had a pretty transformational change in your health.
Yes, 100%. So I have been a chronic migraine sufferer since first grade. Wow. Literally, like,
I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah, no, really long. The school nurse was like, you are not getting migraines. And I was like, no, I am. I see a neurologist. So I'm 36 for reference. So that's quite a while. And since starting with Stacy and SoulCharge and just learning everything, my migraines are nearly gone. Like I get Botox for migraines. That's how extreme my migraines are or were. And I'm like, I don't even know if I need that in all honesty, because there are very, very few. So for reference, I was getting about 28 a month. Wow. So nearly every day. And not just like headaches, like migraines where I'm throwing up, I'm nauseated, like just very, very sick. And now since joining SoulCharge, like I've had maybe two
in almost 4 months.
Yeah. Whoa. Which is amazing. I also was suffering from ulcers and gone.
Wow.
Like all of the health issues that I was experiencing before, no longer. Sleeping better. My husband will even say like, you are more engaged. We do more things together because you're not just coming home and crashing on the couch, like just more energy. All of the things that I attribute to SoulCharge and all of the lessons and things and just, an amazing work environment and all of that. Just everything that I've learned has transformed me. I feel like a totally different woman.
What do you think it was for you that shifted the physical representation, like in your body? Because on some level, like, and I can't remember who said it, but they were breaking down the word disease, right? It's like you're you're in a state of dis-ease, not at ease with yourself. And what do you think it was that shifted like the health pieces for you?
I really think it was trusting myself, connection to myself, and understanding my own self-care. I think our work environment or our home environment is a really big thing too. And so being supported, being in a positive place where it's encouraged. Like if you need to take a quick break, like go, where I didn't have that before. All of those things are now in place for me where I feel like if I need a break, I can take a break. It's not a big deal. Or just, it's hard to put into words, but I really think the environment and then me and myself recognizing and taking that ownership of this is what you deserve. You deserve this and that decision, and then speaking up for myself about all the things that I need.
Yes. Yeah. And it's so interesting because like what I hear you say in this is I think what so many of our listeners can take away from this is there's probably things in your life right now that you are not being direct about what you need, what you want, what you desire. And it's showing up in your body as stress, health issues, maybe weight gain, maybe weight loss. Your body is trying to get your attention, most likely. And if you can bring it back to where are you not making a decision? Where are you not taking ownership? Where are you not being clear with someone or saying what you really want to say? That can be extremely powerful because in Jenny's case, coming from an environment that she didn't feel supported in, or, coming from an environment where she no longer felt fueled by that environment, it's like she decided that she no longer was willing to stay in that. And that was a vote for, as James Clear says, a vote for the person that she wants to become. And I think that is super powerful and a huge takeaway to gather and gain from what Jenny's saying.
Yeah, I would 100% agree.
When you think about self-confidence and the moment that changed, where that no longer was a thing, what changed? What was that moment, or what was the situation where it was like, that's not a thing anymore? Like, can you break down what that experience was like?
I feel like so at first when I started my new job with Stacy and SoulCharge, I was not totally confident, but then I was going through all the SoulCharge things and realized again, kind of making that decision to give myself this vote of you've got this. Yeah. You can do this. And then that switch was almost just you're a boss bitch. You know? Yeah. Like that was what I owned everything, and I owned the mistakes that I make because I'm going to make mistakes. It's a new job. But I started just walking through everything as you've got this. And that was a big switch for me of less trying to be a people pleaser and just knowing that I do a great job and recognizing that, giving that to myself. And I do a good job because that's me.
Yes. Yeah. Like owning yourself is really like what you're saying.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Owning that I've got this and I'm good at this.
Yes.
And just walking through the world with that confidence.
Yes. Yeah. And we're going to have to do another podcast episode on this, but it's this idea of this choice. And Viktor Frankl has a quote from his book, A Man's Search for Meaning. And he talks about between stimulus and response, we have the power to choose. That's where we have the power to choose how we're going to respond and our happiness. And when there is stimuli in our environment, and it can be positive or negative, we always have the power to choose. And I think that among all the other golden nuggets that Jenny's talked about today, that's another one to remember, is that you always have a choice of how you're going to respond, how you're going to handle something, and even how something is going to go. And when you can remember that and reconnect to that intention, that's really where your superpower lies, versus resigning to the belief that someone else is driving or there's no hope, or, whatever the case might be. Jenny, there's one last question that I have for you today. If you could leave the podcast listeners with one thing, what's the one thing that you want them to take away from today's conversation?
Make the choice for yourself. Choose yourself, because when you do, everything unfolds. Me choosing my health and just to be my best self and quitting my job and stepping into the unknown, but I chose myself, and everything that has unfolded since then has been magical. And so choose yourself, as you go forward in your journey.
So good. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. I love it.
I can't wait for future episodes. I know you listeners can't wait either. This was fantastic. Until next time. Are you loving SoulCharge? If so, hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and share an episode. We want to bring powerful content to women leaders each week so that women can be unleashed to create the results that they want now. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.